Another year has passed us, which means it is time to look back at some of the games that were released in 2024 for Nintendo and their Switch. This was the 7th year of the Switch on the market, and at the start of this year we were all kind of expecting a new console to come out, the successor or the Switch 2 or however everyone is calling it. But here we are another year later and we're still here with the same Switch. You can kind of tell that the hardware is starting to get a bit old, but luckily we've gotten hints towards the future, but also some great games that released for the Switch this year. With that in mind, I want to take a look back at the Nintendo Switch in 2024, see what games released, what were the highs, what were the lows, and seeing whether it was truly on par with other years of the Switch, or whether this truly was a gap year for next year. Starting out the year, we knew of 3 Switch games that were going to be coming out. Princess Peach Showtime, the remake of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, as well as Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. It was rumored around this time that those might be some of the final few games really released for the Switch, those are the final big ones, as it was rumored that around February or maybe March, the Nintendo Switch 2 or the successor to the Nintendo Switch would be coming out. But before it was time for that, we had ourselves a Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Nothing really much here was as close to the first party stuff for Nintendo, but we did get ourselves a new Monkey Ball game announced, as well as a remake for Epic Mickey and Monster Hunter Stories. The big announcement of this Direct was Endless Ocean, and I think we were all scratching our heads wondering what the heck an Endless Ocean was, because I sure did. We would end February with no mention of the Switch successor, but we did get ourselves a Pokemon Presents, which is always an exciting time, especially now, right after the release of the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And interesting it was, as we got the reveal for Pokemon Legend ZA, which would not be coming out in 2024, but instead in 2025, but still for the original Switch. This told us that, in contrary to some of the rumors that were flying around, that Switch games for 2025 were still being made. Not just that, Pokemon is the largest media franchise in the world, so still having that on the Switch in 2025 is a huge thing and a huge sign of things to come. And not just that, this was the first time in over a decade that Pokemon would not be releasing a brand new game or DLC or anything for that matter this year. In March, a couple of things happened, including the Switch anniversary, the release of Princess Peach Showtime, and we got a brand new trailer for the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake, which would end up releasing in May. The most important thing that happened this month was the amount of Switch 2 Switch successor rumors, as it truly got crazy this month, as it was the anniversary of the Switch this month, and a lot of people were predicting that the new console would be revealed during it. The amount of people actually reporting on this was nuts, making everybody, including myself, believe that it was going to get revealed this month, which unfortunately did not end up happening, which would be a repeated cycle going forward. Nothing really much of note happened in April for the Nintendo Switch or the rumors regarding the successor. Yes, they did end up keeping on coming, but the most important thing that happened this month was the shutdown of the Nintendo Network for both Wii U and 3DS. This was a time of year where everybody came back to play a few Wii U and 3DS classics online for the final time with their friends, and so did we when we played Super Smash Bros. For Wii U on stream, and we made this banger of video on it, and I truly missed that game and it's online, but you know, luckily we do still have the Switch and Nintendo Switch Online, our favorite online service. Now when we look at May right after April, it was a completely different time, as April nothing really much of note happened, but May, quite a big thing happened for the Switch successor. For the original Switch, we will get the release of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, which was a critically acclaimed game, a game that so many people wanted to play for so many years, especially remade, as it's an all-time classic. But the most important thing was a simple tweet from the Nintendo business account. As a tweet came out written by Shuntaro Furukawa himself, the CEO of Nintendo, saying that the Nintendo Switch successor is currently being worked on, which was the first real info and mention from Nintendo on the next console after the Nintendo Switch. He would also tell us that we would get the first reveal before the end of Nintendo's fiscal year, which is in March of 2025, as Nintendo's fiscal year ends at the end of each and every March. Not just that, Furukawa also announced we will be getting a Nintendo Direct in June, which is probably the earliest time we've ever got a Nintendo Direct revealed for a certain point in time ever, as this was a month and a half in advance. This was huge news, as we'd be getting rumors for so long, for so many months, maybe even years on the next console after the Nintendo Switch. But also the fact that we were still gonna be getting games on Nintendo Switch itself is insane, as a lot of people, again, were expecting the amount of Switch games to go down by a lot. So when we go into June and take a look at this Nintendo Direct, it was truly, probably maybe even one of the best Nintendo Directs we've gotten ever throughout the Switch era. Because when we entered June, June, the biggest thing that truly happened this month was a Nintendo Direct. Not just the fact it happened, but the amount of games truly that were revealed for the second half of the year. First half of the year had some notable releases, but not too many. We had Princess Peach Showtime, and we had just in May had Paper Mario The 1000-Year Door release, and we only really knew of Luigi's Mansion 2 coming out in the next month. So this was one of the first times where we truly didn't know much of previously announced games that were going to be at this Direct. Yes, Nintendo did touch on Luigi's Mansion 2 HD a little bit throughout this Direct, but it was really overshadowed by the abundance of other releases, as there were big ones, but most importantly, a lot of them. The Direct started out with Mario Luigi Brothership, which was a sequel to a series that was long thought to be dead after Alpha Dream went down, as well as a new Zelda reveal being The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which took a lot of inspiration from the Link's Awakening remake that got released back in 2019. We also got a few updates on games that were already out, including a Switch Sports update, which was kind of random. We also got the reveal of an all-new Mario Party being Super Mario Party Jamboree that would be coming out in October, with both old and new stuff being included in the game, being a mix of both worlds from Super Mario Party as well as Mario Party Superstars. We'd also get a few games announced for 2025 for the Switch, which were Donkey Country Returns HD, a remake/port of the Wii U and 3DS title, as well as Metroid Prime 4, yes, Metroid Prime 4, finally being shown off with a bit of gameplay and with a vague 2025 release date as well. There was something truly here for everyone, including the new Zelda. There was, the Mario Party for some people. Metroid Prime 4 was actually there. And yes, Metroid Prime 4 was coming out on the original Switch as well, with no mention of a Switch successor version either, which meant that, Nintendo going into 2025 still had some really big releases coming out. As we now knew of the Donkey Country Returns HD port coming out in January, and then vaguely in 2025, both Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends ZA coming out, which meant that two huge games were still coming out for the system. After Summer Game Fest and your usual E3 type of style directs from Nintendo and other gaming companies, usually the summer is quite a slow time for the gaming industry, as there wasn't really much going on at that point outside of Luigi's Mansion 2 being released. We got the release of Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom in September, and of course in October, Super Mario Party Jamboree, with of course the abundance of Switch rumors accompanying it all. When we zoom in on October though, and Super Mario Party Jamboree's release at the start of October, as well as a little bit of the ending of September, a lot of people were reporting that the Switch successor would be revealed in October. During this month, 8 years ago, we had gotten ourselves the original Switch reveal, and a lot of people thought this was a good time to reveal it. Yes, this was still before the end of the fiscal year, and Nintendo could just reveal it at any point in time, but October truly seemed like the right place and time, as it was right before the holiday season as well. Lo and behold, Super Mario Party Jamboree released, and there was no reveal of the Switch successor. Even more unfortunate, we got ourselves the Mario and Luigi Brothership game released in November, and still there was no Switch successor in sight. Now, said some people, Nintendo likes to reveal, just kind of out of the blue, which they did do, but not for the Switch successor, but rather Xenoblade Chronicles X Remastered that will be coming out for the OG Switch in February of 2025, bamboozling a lot of people, but also making a lot of Xenoblade fans happy. The thing with those releases though, when you compare it to a year like 2023 that came before it, there weren't really that many huge series that came out. Didn't get a new 2D Mario like Mario Wonder came out the year before, or Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, or Pikmin 4, which were huge titles that a lot of people were waiting for. But these were more smaller titles, remakes, remasters mostly, or series that hadn't had a sequel in a while. That doesn't mean that these are bad games, it just means that this was more or less a lighter year for the Switch, especially when you compare it to what we know of for next year, when we have Metroid Prime 4 already being announced, as well as Pokemon Legends ZA, which are both probably bigger than most games that came out this year. But yeah, we also have the first 2 months of next year, starting off with 2 ports of Donkey Country Returns, as well as Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is still a trend that is continuing on in 2024. When I mentioned earlier around the time of March that the Switch successor was probably going to get announced, with a lot of reports coming out around that time, a lot of speculation came out, as well as reports that the Switch successor was actually being pushed back, which explains the gap we had at the start of the year when it came to releases, but also the titles that were coming out, as yes, we have entered the swan song of the Nintendo Switch. Most of the games that ended up coming out this year were either remakes, remasters, or games that were either smaller or a bit more niche. that aren't as big as like a 2D Mario or a brand new Zelda. I can kind of see some parallels to the Nintendo 3DS and its swan song era in 2017 when the Switch originally revealed, when we mostly got ports and remasters as well, with a few smaller titles here and there coming out. With the mild exception that in 2025 we are still getting Metroid Prime 4, which has been a game we've been waiting on for years, as well as Pokemon Legends ZA, which are still huge titles for the system. Not just that, you can play all these games on the Switch successor as well, which is not the worst thing in the world. You can already start on them with the previous system and then maybe continue on the next system if you are planning on getting it. Editor's note, during the making of this video, Nintendo did actually reveal the Nintendo Switch 2 on the exact same date as Donkey Kong Returns' release, which was quite random. But yes, we did finally get the full-blown reveal, and now we are getting ourselves a Switch 2 focused Nintendo Direct on April 2nd, revealing way more info about the system, and I cannot wait to make more content about this system, whether it's live streaming it on Twitch or making more content on it here on YouTube for you guys. I can't wait to see which games will be getting revealed and what new features this system may hold. If I were to rate the Switch's 2024, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. After a slow start, we did end up getting ourselves a bunch more games, but you know, they were mostly smaller titles, remakes, and ports, as well as of the fact that if you compare it to other years, it's just not as big as it was during other years. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.